My name is Lisa Watson. I'm 52 years old and a divorced mother. I live in a small town in Florida. My son, David, is 30 now. I raised him on my own after his father left when he was just a toddler. It was a challenging journey, but I did everything I could to provide for him. I worked long hours as a nurse to ensure he had a good life. I attended every school event, cheered him on at his baseball games, and helped him navigate through life's ups and downs. I always believed that one day he would understand the depth of my love and sacrifices. But last Wednesday, I received an email from him that shattered my heart. The subject line read, "My wedding plans." As I opened it, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. What I discovered inside would change everything. My name is Helen Montgomery. I am 55 years old and a single mother. I live in a suburban neighborhood in Texas. My son Jack is 28 now. I raised him alone after my husband passed away. It was a tough journey, but I did my best. I worked 2 jobs to support us. I woke up early and worked at a grocery store. In the evenings, I cleaned offices. I was always tired, but I wanted to give Jack everything he needed. I attended every school event. I cheered for him at soccer games and helped him with his homework. I was his biggest supporter. I wanted him to go to college, so I saved money and worked hard for that too. Jack went to college. I was so proud of him. I remember the day he graduated. We celebrated together. I thought all my sacrifices were worth it. But as Jack grew older, things changed. He became more distant. I felt like I was losing him. Last Tuesday, I opened my email. There was a message from Jack. The subject line said, "Important." My heart raced. I hoped it was good news. Maybe he found a job or wanted to share something exciting. I clicked on the email, feeling hopeful, but my hope quickly faded. Jack wrote that he and his fiancée, Sarah, decided to have a small wedding. They wanted to keep the guest list short. He explained that due to venue restrictions, I would not be able to attend. Instead, I would have to watch the wedding on a live stream. My heart sank. I felt a mix of hurt and disbelief. I had given so much for Jack. I thought I was important in his life. But now I felt like an afterthought. I read the last line of his email. It said something about how watching online should be just as good. It felt like a blow. I had sacrificed so much, but Jack's words made me feel disregarded. After reading the email, I sat in silence. My mind was racing. I thought about all the years I dedicated to raising him. I remembered the late nights working, the weekends spent helping him study, and the times I put my needs aside. I had always made sure he felt loved and supported. Yet, here I was, being told to watch his special day from a screen. I took a deep breath and decided to reply. I wanted to express my feelings, but I did not want to fight. I chose my words carefully. I said I understood and wished them well. I hit send and felt an ache in my chest. I thought about how things had changed between us. I felt a distance that was hard to ignore. As the day went on, I reflected on my relationship with Jack. I remembered the close bond we had when he was young. We shared so many moments, laughter, and joy. But as he grew up, things changed. He became more independent. I respected that, but it also made me feel alone. I thought about my sacrifices. I often tutored him in math, stayed up late to help him with projects, and listened to his problems. I was always there for him. I tried to be a good mother, but now I wondered if it was enough. Was Jack's email a sign of something deeper? Did he really understand all I had done for him? It was hard to think about. I felt a conflict inside me. I wanted to support Jack, but I also felt marginalized. I wanted to be part of his life, not just a spectator. My heart ached, but I knew I had to focus on what was best for me too. I decided to keep my response calm and even-tempered. I didn't want to confront him. I wanted to give him space to think. I hoped he would realize how much I cared. I wanted him to understand that my love for him was strong, but I also had needs. As the day turned into night, I thought about my next steps. I realized that I needed to stand up for myself. I had been so focused on Jack that I had lost sight of my own worth. I had given everything, but I felt like I was losing myself in the process. I thought about a conversation I had with my friend, Linda, a few weeks ago. She talked about the importance of self-care. She said that we should not lose ourselves in obligations. It stuck with me. I realized I needed to set boundaries. I had to take care of myself, too. The next morning, I woke up feeling uneasy. I knew I had to make a decision. I didn't want to be treated as an afterthought. I wanted Jack to see my worth. I thought about the financial support I had planned for the wedding. It was a large amount of money, and I felt it was time to take a stand. I thought long and hard. I didn't want to make Jack angry, but I also didn't want to feel unappreciated. I decided to go to the bank. I would cancel the transfer. It was a small step, but it felt empowering. I needed to take control of my life. With a determined heart, I got dressed and drove to the bank. The ride was quiet, but my mind was racing. I felt a mix of fear and excitement. What would Jack say? How would he react? I parked the car and took a deep breath before entering the bank. Inside, I spoke to the teller. I explained my situation and requested to cancel the transfer. As I signed the documents, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was a small action, but it felt like a turning point. I was reclaiming my strength. After I left the bank, I felt liberated. I knew Jack would be upset, but I also felt a sense of peace. I had made a decision for myself. I was ready to focus on my own needs. I was ready to reclaim my life. After I canceled the transfer, I went home feeling different. I still had a lot on my mind. I thought about my relationship with Jack. It was hard to face the fact that things had changed between us. We used to be so close, but now I felt a gap growing wider. I remembered Jack's childhood. He was full of energy and laughter. We spent weekends at the park, riding bikes and playing catch. Those were some of the best days of my life. Jack looked up to me, and I felt like a superhero. I loved being his mom, and I enjoyed every moment we shared. But as he entered his teenage years, things shifted. He started to pull away. He spent more time with friends and less time with me. I respected his need for independence, but I missed the connection we had. I often wondered if I was doing something wrong. I tried to keep the lines of communication open, but it felt like I was talking to a wall sometimes. As I sat in my living room, I thought about the email from Jack. It was more than just a wedding invitation. It felt like a reflection of our relationship. I wondered if he really understood how much I had given up for him. Did he see the late nights I worked? Did he know the sacrifices I made to support him through college? I felt an internal struggle. I wanted to be there for Jack, but I also wanted to feel valued. I wanted him to recognize my efforts. I thought about the number of times I had put my own needs aside. I had been so focused on his life that I had lost sight of my own. I recalled the many tutoring sessions I had with him. I would sit with him for hours, helping him understand math and science. I sacrificed my free time for those moments. I remember the stress of finals week. I would make him snacks and stay up late to help him study. I wanted him to succeed. I thought he would appreciate those efforts. But now I felt like none of it mattered. The email made me question everything. Was Jack's wedding about the celebration of love, or was it just another event where I would not be included? I felt pushed aside, and that hurt more than I expected. Instead of feeling angry, I felt sad. I wanted to reach out to Jack and tell him how I felt. But I also knew that I needed to keep my response calm. I didn't want to create more distance between us. I wanted to show him that I cared, but I also wanted him to understand my side. I took a moment to think about how to approach this. I wanted to express my disappointment without sounding confrontational. I wanted him to know that I was hurt, but I also wanted him to feel my love. I decided to write him a short message. I would let him know that I understood his decision, but it still hurt. As I typed the message, I felt a mix of emotions. I wanted to be strong, but I also wanted to be vulnerable. I finished the email and hit send. I hoped he would read it and think about it. I wanted him to know that I was still here for him, even if it felt different now. After I sent the email, I felt a sense of relief. I had expressed my feelings without causing a fight, but I also felt anxious. I wondered how Jack would respond. Would he understand? Would he feel guilty? I hoped it would make him think about our relationship. That evening, I sat on my couch, trying to distract myself with a movie. But my mind kept drifting back to Jack. I thought about how much I missed him. I thought about the times we laughed together and the memories we had created. It was hard to let go of those feelings. I also thought about my friend Linda. She always encouraged me to take care of myself. She had mentioned the importance of setting boundaries. I understood that now. I needed to be clear about my feelings and not just accept what others decided for me. As I reflected on my life, I realized I had lost some of my own identity. I had put so much focus on being a mother that I had forgotten about myself. I had dreams and passions that I had set aside. I wanted to rediscover them. I wanted to find out who I was beyond being Jack's mom. I decided to make a list of things I enjoyed doing. I wanted to reconnect with my interests. I used to love painting and reading. I wanted to join a book club and meet new people. I wanted to fill my life with activities that made me happy. The next morning, I woke up with a new sense of purpose. I made a plan. I would reach out to a local art studio and sign up for a painting class. I would look for a book club nearby. I wanted to surround myself with positivity and creativity. I wanted to feel alive again. I picked up my phone and started searching for classes. I found a painting class that started next week. I signed up without hesitation. It felt like a small victory. I was taking a step toward finding myself again. As I prepared for my day, I felt lighter. I knew I still had to face the reality of my relationship with Jack. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I felt stronger. I was ready to embrace change. Later that day, I went for a walk. The fresh air felt good. I thought about my journey as a mother. I loved Jack deeply, but it was time to prioritize myself, too. I wanted him to see that I was more than just a parent. I was a person with needs and dreams. I hoped Jack would understand one day. I hoped he would see that love is not just about sacrifices. It's also about respect and understanding. I wanted to teach him that boundaries are important. As I walked, I felt a sense of hope. I knew that my relationship with Jack could evolve. I believed that with time, we could find a way to reconnect. I was ready to face whatever came next, knowing that I was worthy of love and respect, both from Jack and from myself. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. I had signed up for the painting class, and I was eager to start. It felt like a new chapter in my life. But in the back of my mind, I still felt the weight of my relationship with Jack. I knew I had to face my feelings about his wedding. I didn't want to avoid the situation any longer. I had canceled the financial support, but I felt a lingering anger. I couldn't ignore it. I thought about the sacrifices I had made and how they seemed to mean little to Jack now. I wanted to be strong, but I also knew I had to be honest. One evening, I sat down with a cup of tea. I took a deep breath and thought about my next steps. I had been listening to Linda's advice about self-care and boundaries. It was clear to me that I needed to set a new standard for how I wanted to be treated. I didn't want to be an afterthought during such an important time in Jack's life. I recalled all the late nights I spent working, the times I skipped outings with friends to be there for him. I had given everything, but now it felt like Jack didn't see that. I thought about the email and how it made me feel. I wanted to take control of the situation. I needed to act. I decided to write another email to Jack. I wanted to explain my feelings more clearly. I didn't want him to think I was being selfish. I wanted him to understand that I was hurt and that my feelings were valid. I picked up my laptop and started typing. I wrote about my love for him and how proud I was of him. I expressed my confusion about the wedding. I explained that I understood their decision but felt sidelined. I told him that I didn't want to be a spectator in his life. I wanted to be part of it, sharing in his joys and milestones. After I finished the email, I read it over a few times. I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I hit send and hoped he would take the time to read my words. I wanted to open the door for a real conversation. I wanted him to see my side, to understand that my heart was in the right place. The following day, I went to my first painting class. I was nervous but excited. The studio was bright and welcoming. I met a few women who were also there to learn. We chatted as we set up our supplies. I felt a sense of belonging. It was nice to be around people who shared a common interest. As I picked up my paintbrush, I felt a wave of freedom. I mixed colors and let my creativity flow. It was a welcome distraction from my worries about Jack. I lost myself in the process, feeling the joy of creating something new. I realized how much I had missed this. After class, I felt energized. I had met new people and I was doing something just for me. I decided to sign up for more classes. I wanted to keep this momentum going. I wanted to explore my passions and reignite my spirit. Later that evening, I received a call from Jack. My heart raced as I answered. He sounded upset. He told me he had read my email and wanted to talk. I felt a mix of fear and hope. Would we finally have the conversation we needed? We arranged to meet at a coffee shop the next day. As I prepared for our meeting, I felt nervous. I wanted to be calm and open, but I also wanted to express my feelings. I thought about what I would say. I wanted to be honest without pushing him away. When I arrived at the coffee shop, I saw Jack sitting at a table. He looked tense. I took a deep breath and approached him. I sat down and we exchanged awkward smiles. I could tell he was struggling to find the right words. He started by apologizing for how he handled the wedding situation. He explained that he felt overwhelmed by planning and wanted to please everyone. He said he didn't mean to hurt my feelings. I listened carefully, trying to understand where he was coming from. I shared my thoughts as well. I told him that I understood the pressure he felt, but I needed him to know how much I had given up for him. I reminded him of the late nights and the sacrifices I made to support him. I wanted him to see that my love was not just about obligation, it was about connection. As we talked, I felt a shift. Jack began to open up about his feelings too. He admitted that he was feeling stressed and didn't want to let anyone down. He said he had not realized how much his choices impacted me. I could see the guilt in his eyes, and it made me feel a little better. We talked for a long time. It was a mix of emotions, but it felt good to communicate openly. I could see that Jack was starting to understand my perspective. I realized that this conversation was what we both needed. It was a step towards healing our relationship. After our talk, I felt lighter. I knew we still had work to do, but it was a start. I was proud of myself for standing up for my feelings. I had set a boundary, and Jack was beginning to respect it. It felt empowering to take control of my life and my emotions. As I left the coffee shop, I felt hopeful. I could see a path forward. I would continue to focus on my passions and my needs. I would also keep the lines of communication open with Jack. I wanted us to build a healthier relationship. That night, I went home and picked up my paintbrush. I started working on a new piece, feeling inspired. I realized that I was reclaiming my life. I was finding joy again. I had learned that setting boundaries was not about being selfish, it was about self-respect. I looked forward to what was next. I knew that I was worthy of love and respect, both from Jack and from myself. I was ready to embrace this new beginning. I felt confident that together, we could create a better future. After my talk with Jack, I felt a sense of relief. It was good to finally share our feelings. I hoped it would help us move forward. But I also knew that I needed to stay firm in my decisions. I had taken a step toward reclaiming my voice, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. The next few days passed, but I felt a shift in the air. I continued my painting classes and made new friends. I felt happy being in a creative space. My confidence was growing, but I also felt anxious about what would happen next with Jack. On the fourth day after our coffee meeting, I came home to find my phone buzzing with messages. I opened my texts and saw a mix of frantic messages from Jack. He was upset and confused. I felt my heart sink. I took a deep breath and read through them. He wrote about feeling abandoned. He said he didn't understand why I had canceled the financial support for the wedding. He expressed anger and desperation, pleading for me to help him. I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. I wanted to be there for him, but I also wanted him to recognize my feelings. I felt a strong need to respond, but I paused. I remembered my goal of setting boundaries. I didn't want to act out of guilt. I wanted to be clear and firm. I decided to take a moment to think before typing a response. I needed to be calm and collected. After some time, I started to write back. I explained my reasons for canceling the financial support. I told him that I felt unappreciated and that my feelings mattered. I reminded him that love should not come with conditions. I also expressed my hope that he could understand where I was coming from. I hit send and felt a mix of fear and hope. I knew Jack might not react well, but I had to be honest. I wanted him to see that I loved him, but I also needed respect. I put my phone down and tried to distract myself with painting. Later that evening, I heard a knock at the door. I opened it to find Jack standing there, looking upset. My heart raced, but I invited him in. He stepped inside, and I could see the emotions written all over his face. Jack started talking right away. He said he felt hurt by my message. He didn't understand why I wouldn't support him on his wedding day. I listened to him pour out his feelings. He talked about the pressure he was under and how he felt he had to please everyone. I could see he was struggling. I took a deep breath and asked him to sit down. I wanted to have a calm conversation. I explained again that I loved him and wanted to support him, but I also needed him to see my side. I told him that I felt disregarded after all the sacrifices I had made. Jack listened, but I could tell he was still struggling with my decision. He accused me of being selfish. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. It hurt to hear those words. I had worked so hard to be there for him. I reminded him of everything I had done for him over the years. I stood firm in my beliefs. I told him that I was not trying to hurt him, but I needed to take care of myself too. I explained that love is about mutual respect. I wanted him to realize that it was okay for me to set boundaries. As the conversation continued, I could see Jack's anger start to shift. He began to understand that I was not trying to push him away, I was trying to protect myself. I could see the gears turning in his mind. He started to reflect on his own actions. He apologized for how he had handled things. He admitted that he had been overwhelmed and hadn't considered my feelings. He said he didn't want to hurt me, but he had let the stress get to him. I could see the guilt in his eyes, and it made me feel a little better. We talked for a while longer, and I felt a sense of clarity. Jack was beginning to understand that our relationship needed to change. I could see that he was starting to respect my boundaries. It felt like a breakthrough. After our conversation, I felt lighter. I realized that this process was not just about me setting boundaries, it was about teaching Jack how to recognize them as well. I wanted him to understand that love is about being there for each other, but it also means respecting each other's needs. As Jack left, I felt hopeful. I knew we had more work to do, but we were moving in the right direction. I decided to take a few days to focus on myself again. I wanted to continue my painting and enjoy my new friends. I needed to remind myself that I was worthy of love and respect. In the following days, I poured myself into my art. I painted every evening, losing myself in the colors and shapes. I felt like my spirit was coming back to life. I joined a book club and met some wonderful women. We shared stories and laughed together. It felt good to connect with others. One evening, as I was finishing a painting, I received another message from Jack. He wanted to meet again. I felt nervous, but also excited. I texted back and agreed to meet him at the same coffee shop. When I arrived, Jack was already there. He looked more relaxed than before. We talked about life and our feelings. I could see he was making an effort to understand me. He told me he had been thinking a lot about our conversations. He wanted to find a way to make things right. I felt a warmth in my heart. It was good to see him trying. I knew that our journey would not be easy, but I felt hopeful. We could build a better relationship, one based on mutual respect and understanding. As I left the coffee shop that day, I felt a renewed sense of peace. I realized that setting boundaries was a sign of strength, not weakness. I was learning to love myself, and in turn, I was teaching Jack the importance of love that respects both sides. I knew that this was just the beginning. I felt ready to embrace whatever came next. I was excited about my future, and I believed that together, we could create a stronger bond. I was proud of the steps I had taken, and I was eager to see where this journey would lead us both. After our last meeting, I felt a sense of hope that I hadn't felt in a long time. Jack seemed to be making an effort. We talked more openly, and each conversation felt like a step toward healing. We were both learning how to communicate better, and it felt good. In the days that followed, I continued to focus on myself. I spent my evenings painting, and I enjoyed the process of creating art. I lost myself in the colors and shapes, and it felt like therapy. I also joined the book club, where I met some wonderful women. We shared stories and laughed together. It was nice to connect with people who appreciated me for who I was. One afternoon, while I was painting, I received a text from Jack. He wanted to meet again. I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. I wondered what he would say this time. I quickly replied, agreeing to meet him at our usual coffee shop. When I arrived, Jack was already there, looking a bit anxious. I could see he had something on his mind. We ordered our coffees and settled into a corner table. The atmosphere felt lighter than before. Jack took a deep breath and started talking. He told me he had been doing a lot of thinking about our conversations. He expressed how much he valued our relationship. He said he realized that he had taken my support for granted. Hearing him say that felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I smiled and told him I appreciated his honesty. I explained that I wanted him to understand that love is not just about support, it's also about respect and being present. I wanted him to know that I was there for him, but I needed him to be there for me too. As we talked, I could see Jack reflecting on his actions. He apologized again for how he had handled the wedding situation. He said he didn't want to make me feel unimportant. I could see the sincerity in his eyes, and it made me feel hopeful. We spent the next hour discussing our feelings and thoughts. Jack shared his fears about starting a new life with Sarah. He talked about the pressure he felt to please everyone. I listened and supported him, but I also reminded him that he needed to prioritize his own happiness. I felt like we were really connecting. We were starting to build a stronger foundation for our relationship. I realized that this process was not just about me setting boundaries, it was about us learning how to support each other. As we finished our coffees, Jack looked at me with determination. He said he wanted to make things right. He suggested that he would take more time to include me in his life. He promised to communicate better and to not let stress get in the way of our relationship. I felt a surge of happiness. I told him I wanted the same. I wanted us to have a stronger bond, one built on understanding and love. We both knew it would take time, but I felt confident that we were on the right path. After our meeting, I went home feeling lighter. I decided to celebrate our progress. I poured myself a glass of wine and reflected on how far we had come. I realized that I had learned a lot about myself during this time. I was learning to set boundaries, and that was empowering. The next few weeks flew by. Jack and I continued to communicate openly. He made an effort to include me in his life, and I felt valued. He would call to share updates about wedding planning, and I offered my support without feeling like I was being sidelined. It felt good to be part of the process. One day, Jack invited me to lunch with Sarah. I was nervous, but also excited. I wanted to meet her and see how they interacted. I felt a mix of emotions, but I was ready to embrace the new dynamic. At lunch, Sarah was warm and friendly. We chatted about wedding plans, and I could see that Jack was happy. It felt good to see him smiling. I realized that this was not just about me, it was about supporting Jack as he moved forward in his life. As we talked, I felt a sense of peace. I could see that Jack had found someone who made him happy. I wanted him to be happy, and I could feel the love he had for her. We ended the lunch with laughter and a promise to meet again soon. Later that evening, I took some time to reflect on the day. I realized that I was learning to embrace change. I had set boundaries, and now I was seeing the positive effects. Jack and I were building a healthier relationship. I felt proud of the progress we had made. I also continued to focus on myself. I kept painting and enjoying my newfound passion. I felt like I was rediscovering who I was outside of being a mother. I was learning to appreciate myself and my needs. One evening, while I was painting, I received a message from Jack. He wanted to share some news. I felt a flutter of excitement as I opened the message. He said that he and Sarah were making changes to the wedding plans. They wanted to include me in a special way. I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. Jack explained that they decided to have a small ceremony where I could be present. I felt tears of joy fill my eyes. I knew this was a big step for both of us. It showed that he valued our relationship and wanted me to be part of his life. I replied with gratitude and excitement. I told him how much it meant to me to be included. I felt a sense of belonging that I had missed for a long time. As I finished my painting that night, I realized that I was at a new beginning. I had learned that boundaries foster respect, and with that, love could flourish. I felt proud of the steps I had taken, both for myself and for my relationship with Jack. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but I felt ready to face them. I was excited about the future. I had learned to love myself, and in turn, I was learning to love others more deeply. I was ready to embrace whatever came next with open arms and an open heart. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.